Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining us today in today's live lecture coming to you from Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University. Today's date is Eke Market Day in the Igbo lunar calendar and 8/25/2025 in the Roman Catholic calendar. And you know why we are giving you both calendars is for us to know that we Africans have our own calendar, and that is the lunar calendar. Also, remember at Nkolo Mahadum, we always advise you to use your naturally given common sense, which we call Akonuche in Igbo language. Also, we are here to present to you correct information from Igbo man, Biafran, and African perspectives, instead of the misinformation, miseducation, and misdirection being given to us by the foreigners. And we cannot be looking at things from the foreigners' point of view. No, we have to look at things from the Igbo man, Biafran, and African point of view, how things is concerning us. And therefore, we package our lectures and present them from Igbo man, Biafran, and African perspectives. And that's why we are asking you to always join us, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And now we are live on YouTube, we are live on Facebook, we are live on TikTok, we are live on Twitter. So join us to enjoy this lecture so that Africa will be better. The title of today's lecture is In Africa, Good, Long, and Better Life, Better Than Before Infrastructures. In Africa, we should have programs for good life, long life, better life, before infrastructure, building all this infrastructure, so that the people can have life first, enjoy their life first, before enjoying the infrastructures. It doesn't make sense that we are building infrastructures while our people are dying. Because if you are connected with home, it's not that people don't die, but if you are connected with home, you see how much of our people are dying on a daily basis because of lack of government programs to prevent such untimely deaths. That is why we found it necessary and important to use this lecture to advise all Africans, all Biafrans, all Igbo people, the Igbo race, so that we can reorganize, so that we can readjust what we are doing, so that it will make sense. We don't need a foreigner. We don't need a science. We don't need a foreigner. We don't need somebody else. We should be able to organize our life. Use all the experts we have around the world. If the experts and people we have around the world cannot come down and sit down and come out with all these programs, then we should involve our brothers that we are brought here by slavery. Our brothers that we are here already. Some of them have the knowledge to help us to plan programs in Africa that will benefit everybody. So this is why this lecture is very important, because always you see our leaders showing us infrastructures, airports, roads, and others that they are building. Meanwhile, our people are dying on a daily basis. It doesn't make sense. And even in America here, you have what they call 16 critical infrastructures. These 16 critical infrastructures that they have includes the chemical department, chemical sector, commercial sector. You see, commercial sector where you go shopping, for business, entertainment, and others. You have what they call communication sector, manufacturing sector, dam, defense, emergency, food and agriculture, government facilities, health and public health, information technology, transportation, financial, health care, and others. These are the 16 infrastructures that the American government operates. So what we are saying is this. The leaders in Africa, be it any leader, wherever you are, all of us have to be focused on one direction. How to make sure that there is food and agricultural self-sufficiency, which means that food shouldn't be a problem for an African. There should always be food at a cheaper rate. If it's not cheap, then subsidized by the government to make sure that it is affordable. There should be food for everybody to be eating. There should be health care for all. Free. There should be free electricity. Subsidized free electricity. And also housing. These 4 basic needs is very, very, very crucial to make sure that our people have a good life. Because many people in our place are killed by hunger. They're killed by dehydration. They're killed by too much stress. So that's why we are saying that our people should come together. Let's come together. We can do it when we come together, so that we can plan our communities. Plan this in such a way that there should be food abundance, free health care, electricity, 24-hour electricity, and then housing for everybody. And then, if the population is well fed, well taken care of, a woman that gets pregnant is part of that population. She's already being fed well, having good health care. And then that woman will be able to be pregnant with a child. And then the question will be, from that pregnancy, what are we doing to make sure that the woman is eating very well, getting free health care, that make sure she's housed, and make sure that the pregnancy is monitored from inception to delivery. These are supposed to be programs of government to make sure that when this child is delivered, the child and the mother will be healthy. And when they are healthy, that is the first starting point of having a decent community, a decent people in the community. Then, after birth of the child, does the mother get money from the government? The mother should be getting, we should have programs for the mothers to be getting money from the government to take care of the mother and the child, and this new child. Make sure the child and mother after delivery are eating very well, are being fed very well, are getting free medical care to adulthood of that child. And then during child care, when this child is going to school, does this child have transportation to school? Of course, the government should be able to provide free transportation for all the students in Africa, in Biafra land, and in Igbo land. So that this child will wake up, the mother will escort the child to a location, a bus stop, and enter a free transportation to the school. And the government will also make sure that the child, while in school, will get at least 1 or 2 feedings, either breakfast and lunch. Or you design the program in such a way that the child eats breakfast in the morning before going to school. But in the school, that child must eat lunch. And there should also be very good healthcare system in every school. That's how you produce people with decent people in communities. And that's what we should be doing. And now, as this child continues to develop into different schools, primary school, secondary school, university, and so on, the question is, what kind of environment is this child studying in? Does the school accommodation, the hostels in the school, do they have air conditions? How are they taken care of in the school? And most importantly, what kind of education are we impacting on our children? We at Nkola Mahadum Wisdom University, we prefer practical education than the current theoretical education that doesn't lead us anywhere. The world measures success by productivity, by physical economy. Physical economy means what you can produce. And whatever you can produce, you produce with your hand and your brain. So what we need is practical education. So we make sure that our children are provided practical education. Unless, and if not, do away completely with this theoretical education that is not helping us. Now, after this child graduates, the one you call graduation, is there any work available in the environment for this child? If there's no work available, is there a program for the government in conjunction with banks to provide assistance, provide loan for this graduated student to be self-employed, to open his own business and be self-employed? That's how we should design our societies and communities so that there be no much crime. Because always you see that you see unknown gunmen, you see kidnappers, you see this and that all over our places. This is because the government didn't play their part when these children are small. They didn't play their part. The children were not guided. They were not directed properly. And this is why we are presenting this lecture, so that we can start early. We can reorganize ourselves. We can do it. And so it is very important. So if this child doesn't have employment, doesn't have no assistance to start his own business, does the government provide unemployment allowance, which will make sure that this graduate can rent a house, feed himself, and live his life with those allowances? These are where the government is supposed to be putting their money. This is what the government is supposed to be investing in, the human capital, in the human beings. Investing in human beings is much, much better than building infrastructure. Why should we be building infrastructure while you are not doing these things that have been highlighted in this program, in this lecture today? And at old age, what are you doing for the elderly? Somebody that have lived in our communities and got old. What is the government doing for that elderly man? As long as we know that nursing home, hospice is not our culture. Our culture is for the elderly man to stay in their family. And staying in their family does not mean that the government should not make sure that they have a house to live in. If they don't have a house, give them a house. Make sure the elderly gets free health care, free food, free transportation in most cases. We don't abandon our elders. We do not. In other societies, when somebody is old, you have like what they call caregiver. You have someone like caregiver. Why can't government make sure that We have caregivers, trained caregivers that you pay enough. You pay them enough to be doing that caregivers to our elderly people in our land. That is what many people are doing abroad. That is what the governments of many people in the UK, in the USA, in other what you call developed economy, that's what they are doing. They have what you call caregivers, and they pay them to take care of the elderly people in our communities. Why can't we be doing such things? Do we need a rocket scientist to come and tell us to do it? That is why joining us, subscribing, following, liking, commenting, sharing our lectures to everybody is very important. So we have to change the way we are doing things in Africa. We don't need a foreigner to come and do that for us. That is why it is important that all leaders in Africa, in Biafra land, in Igbo race, anywhere in Igbo land and Igbo race, even when you are a leader in clubs or parochial organizations or town unions, make sure that we are all on the same page. These are what we need in our land. This is what will make us better in our land. We don't need a foreigner to come and do it for us. We can do it. We have the same head like the foreigners. Human beings are almost equal with just few exceptional genuses. But what they can do, we can also do it. And hence this lecture. And so what we are saying is that governments, all leaders in Africa, in Igbo land, in Biafra land, should make sure that good, long, and better life before infrastructure. Make sure our people are provided good and better life before building infrastructure, because they have to live first before they can enjoy those infrastructures. You cannot say that you are building infrastructures while our people are dying on a daily basis, and that is okay. It's not okay. And hence this lecture. So what we are saying is that even in America, they have what they call 16 critical infrastructures. And even as they have those 16 critical infrastructures, they are doing all these things that is being highlighted in this lecture. They are doing it. They already have that in place already. You cannot be doing infrastructure and leaving human beings first. You have to invest in your human beings. Human capital development is number one, should be number one. Before you start building infrastructure, this, infrastructure, that. And in America, they have 16 critical infrastructures called, the first one, communication, chemical, commercial, manufacturing, dam, defense, emergency, food and agriculture, government facilities, health and public health, information technology, transportation, water and waterways systems, nuclear reactors, transportation, and finance. These are their 16 critical infrastructures. We are not saying that it is bad, but what we are saying is that before you engage that, make sure you are doing these ones first. Investing in your human beings, making sure that human beings that we are born into your location is not dying like fowls. Take care of your human beings first before you start your infrastructures. Or if you can do both, fine. But do not neglect the human beings, because that is the only thing we get in this world, is just to live. Eat when you want to eat, sleep in a good environment, go to work if you have work, and come back and, continue to live until one dies. And so what we are saying is all our leaders should focus on making sure that the population have food and agricultural self-sufficiency. That's food in the environment. That food is not a problem. Give them free health care. Make sure that they're taken care of when they are sick. Provide them 24-hour electricity, free, and also housing. Once you provide these basic things for them, that is continuous in a program. You have a program where it is going to, that is the first thing of government. And every other person in the community will key in. It should be the first. So that if people in the environment, if people in the community, they are feeding well, they have free health care, they have 24-hour electricity, they have housing, then all their system will be functioning well. And in that community, a woman there that gets pregnant, you also make sure that that woman is feeding well, have good health care, have good housing, and the pregnancy is being monitored until birth. This is not hard to do. This is not hard to do. Then, when the pregnant woman gives birth, you make sure that the woman have money. There should be a program to provide money for women that give birth, so they can have money to be taking care of themselves as well as the child. It's very, very important to adulthood, because it is the mother, it is the parents now that will be taking the child to different stages of the educational system that you have in the community. And by doing that, you make sure that there's transportation to go to those different schools. You make sure that in the school that the child must be fed. You must take care of the human beings first before building infrastructure, so that the child can go to school without any problem. And then the school environment should be very, very good. Make sure everywhere is air conditioned, that the temperature is controllable. And then make sure that the classrooms are good, everything is good in the school for our children. That should be the first priorities, than starting to show us roads or malls or government house that you're building. That's not important if you're not doing these things. And so now, in the school systems, primary, secondary, and the university as you have it right now, what are we really teaching these children? Are we teaching them theoretical education or practical education? And in the world of today, you know that practical education is the key to survival. All these nuclear weapons that Russia, all this oceanic, all this military equipment that Russia and America and other people, Russia and China are producing, is practical. All the drones, all the aeroplanes, all the fighter jets, everything production is practical. That's why we should be going for practical education and not theoretical education. And then, after this child graduates, do you have a job for this child in the community? Do you? That is the question everybody should be asking the government. If you don't have a job for this child in the community after graduation, what do you expect him to do? Do you have a program to make sure that he will begin his own business? Do you have a program to give him financial assistance, like loan, like free loan or subsidized loan, for him to start on his own business? If you don't have it, do you have unemployment allowance you pay to this child after graduation? Because oftentimes you see all these criminals, this person killing of this person, that he stole this, he's a kidnapper, he's this, he's unknown government, he's this and that. Because the government, our people are not doing the right thing for the children, for our youth. That is why you see them going to those things. And so this is what we need to be doing. And then after somebody have lived in a community, served in a community, and got old, what is the government doing for them? As long as we know, nursing home or hospice is not our culture. Our culture is for the elderly to stay with the family. And even at that, why can't the government have a workable, a successful caregiver programs? Caregiver programs that we make sure the caregiver is paid enough to be taking care of our elderly people. Making sure the elderly people are are feeding well, they're taking their medications, they're getting their free health care, they are getting transportation to wherever they want to go. Why can't we be doing that for our people? Why should we be focusing on infrastructure and leaving human beings that those things are meant for to be dying like fowls in our communities? It doesn't make any sense. So that's why we want to share this lecture, comment, like, share this lecture to everybody, because we need to change what we are doing. We're not doing it right at all. And hence, the establishment of Nkola Mahadum Wisdom University, where we package and present issues from Igbo man, from Biafran and African perspectives. And so we are presenting this lecture because we human beings, we the Igbo people, the Biafran people, the African people that are born into these communities have to live our life first. We have to live a successful life, a good life, in order to be able to enjoy all these infrastructures that they say that they are building for us. It is very, very important. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. But before we do, I have to also ask you to stand up and question your governments. Follow your government. The governments are the ones that have all your money. People in governments, they are the ones that have all your resources, everything for you. They have it. So they are the ones to readjust things and release those money back to you to make sure that you don't suffer much, you live a long life, a good life, and not a life of always complaining and suffering and dying as a result. And with this, we shall bring it to this lecture to an end. Thank you very much for joining me today, and have a very, very, very good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.